Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. Today is Wednesday, December 24th, 2025. It's Christmas Eve. But for you, it'll be Christmas Day. I think this video is going up at 2 p.m. That's the time slot that I put these videos up. Um, there'll be a video tomorrow, the day after Christmas, and then I'll take a day off again. I'm still, working and making videos. I'm just only posting every 3 days and then one day off. So it's, you guys probably are aware of the routine, you guys who are regulars to the channel. It's like 60 degrees here, like for the next 3 or 4 days. It's supposed to maybe rain today. And it's been really, a more severe winter. We've gotten probably like 10 inches of snow already, which is probably more than we get. We usually probably get five or, I mean, not real. Some winters barely any at all. And it was really cold. Usually it doesn't start getting cold till January, and it's like starts getting overcast every day. We don't see the sun for like 6 weeks, 2 months. January and February, maybe part of March. And, occasionally there's a warm day, but it's really nice out. We've got coyotes that are howling like in packs, and we're hearing that, abnormally early. Usually you'll see coyotes in mating season, and they'll be out more, they'll occasionally we'll see one in our yard, but they'll be more, visible. And then, but there's ones that are howling every night. Sometimes they're howling this morning even. It was, it was like a smoky, not smoky, foggy. There was like fog last night. It's kind of nice. It was really, when I looked in my mini pond and there was these tadpoles. So, I'll put some video clips here. We have these tadpoles, and I'm looking at the pond, and there's fish, and they were just frozen like a week ago, right? Like there's, the whole pond was frozen solid, like there was no water in it, and these fish and these frogs were frozen, and now they're all swimming around. There's little frogs, some big ones I've seen, and then they sleep in the bottom. It's kind of interesting, these animals. We have turtles that are in the big pond, and they find a way to just like not breathe. They go into some, state of suspended animation, and they're like kind of dead, and they freeze, and then they wake up, and they're just like, oh, it's cool, and the water's like, warmer now. I'm going to add water to the pond so it'll stay warm for a little bit. But the fish were barely moving. Some of them are laying on the bottom of the thing, sleeping. These fish have been. They look like they're dead, but then they wake up. It's a weird, these sheboykins, whatever they are. But I saw all five of our tadpoles. Some of them had legs. They're not going to be frogs until next year, so they take them a whole year. We had a bunch in our big pond too. And then we have these lights. I made this little area when we got hens, and we put them in this old, well house that we don't really use. And I cut a path through the forest, and it was kind of a neat little forest, and I added these tea lights and then these other lights. And it's kind of like our Christmas lights, they're Christmas decorations. But we have them all year, and, it's a whole thing. This is our first Christmas without any kids at all. I mean, last Christmas my son was here, but I don't think we barely did anything. We might have had a Christmas dinner. I don't think he knew it was Christmas. It was like one of those things we've been doing less and less. My wife and I are more, these kids these days are, at least our kids, like one winter, maybe a few years ago, there was all this ice in the pasture. Like it rained and it was kind of iced over, like freezing rain. And there was all these pockets of little ice. And we have a kind of a swampland. And I thought it would be cool. We went out and like broke the ice like I used to do when we were kids. And we all went out, and the kids were like, couldn't wait to go back home, go back inside and get on their devices and do whatever. We've had a number of experiences where my wife and I are more like the kids. The kids just don't want to do shit and aren't, have these adventures. So, but we have like just me and her, and it's kind of be, less pressure to put on a holiday and a Christmas, and I feel kind of good about it. And so usually I get was one day where I feel Christmas spirit. Like usually one day a year. I mean, as a kid, it was a lot more. But like since I've been an adult, like one day I would just look at the Christmas lights, and I get this feeling that I would call Christmas spirit. Like it's a feeling. It's like a spiritual condition, and I get all into it. And we had a lot of snow already, and we have these lights in the backyard and this stuff. And I'll put some videos up here of some of the things that we've had. And I don't feel that yet. I mean, maybe it'll be tomorrow, maybe not at all, this year. But it's been really kind of a great year. It just, I don't know. I'm looking forward to. I mean, not the traditional kind of Christmas, and not the presents, and not even the holiday, just whatever it is, right? Like I felt a lot of things this year I enjoyed more than they were like a really amazing summer, and some amazing things, and I was like, maybe this is like the last one before the stuff starts kicking in, which I'll get into next week when I talk about the year of when the defining term of the year of 2026, and then I'll some of the other things that are I mean things are falling apart quickly, and and I felt a sense personally to enjoy the things that are there because they might not be there next year, and they might not be here ever again, right? Some of the good things about the system, some of the materialistic things about the system, comforts and systems and whatever, and everything's fragile and can disappear in a second. And, I think that's going to happen in the near future and maybe as soon as next year. And so when there are big changes, I mean, there's things that people have, when you're sentimental, and I'm not that way, but, when things change and then you look back and you reflect and you have regrets that you didn't appreciate things when they were there. You didn't appreciate people. You didn't appreciate, whatever was there in terms of the good things that you had. You were complaining, or you were, locked in and focused on other things, and you didn't realize, something that was great until it was gone. And that's, the tragedy of human life. So to be grateful and be aware and be, happy about things. And then, when the changes come, and then you embrace the changes, and it's not, necessarily bad. It's just different. And then you find a way to be grateful for that. Because you could always look at the good side, or there's always ways that you can reframe the narrative, even when something's negative, to be beneficial and be grateful to God and be grateful just in general for, whatever it is. All right, so that's my Christmas message. Let's get into the other stuff here. Okay, so let's get into some stuff here, right? So Twitter recommended this tweet. And I've been saying I'm not covering Candace Owens, and, I'm going to stick to that. But, the headline here, Fort Hawacha Chua Chua confirmed. Which, I knew was going to be great. Find your favorite podcaster who joined the psychological operation to convince you Mitch was lying about having been at Fort Hachiwachua on 9/9 because I just received the instant report. So she's encouraging people to go out and troll anybody who has questioned her bullshit, right? And Mitch's bullshit. Now, apparently on the podcast, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, I didn't listen to it, the interview, she decided to set up a GoFundMe for this guy. And we don't know if she's getting any of the money or how that's going. This guy Mitch, right? So this guy Mitch, the story was that he was instrumental in the finding a tunnel that had to do with the Iran-Contra guns for weapons, drugs, all that stuff under the Reagan administration, and that he was outed to the cartels, and the cartels were after him, and he went to witness protection, and they slapped a 35-year-old gag order on him that just came. We wasn't able to talk about this for 35 years, which just came due. And he decided to go back and put his pieces of his life together, and he just happened to stumble onto the Charlie Kirk assassination plot, right? So that's the bull. And she's claimed that she's prayed to God to send her a message, something confirming something that's a smoking gun. And a woman said, you got to talk to Mitch. And she talked to Mitch, and she came up with the story, right? And, and so it says here, receive the incident report. Remember, Mitch said his first taken outside by Captain Neff, and after in question for a long time. That's Blake Neff, the angry young twink, or the angry twink's brother or cousin or something. After a while, they made a decision to call the military police and report him as a possible bomb threat. as Mitch maintained at that stage, and there was, of course, a paper trail, and here we have it. Bombed dogs were called at 11 a.m. And so I've received the incident report 11:17 a.m. So the incident report, what is on there? Do you have it? Can you show it? Can it be verified to your audience? Like, just saying you have the report, you're not trustworthy, right? So there's multiple ways this can be fake or unsubstantial, right? Like somebody could have called a bomb threat in. I mean, they're saying no. If it just says there's a bomb, dogs were called into the wherever it was, or this is all part of a setup, disinformation campaign. I always believe Mitt's story of what happened on that morning because he supplied overwhelming evidence with metadata and timestamps. Now we have the incident report. What we cannot confirm as yet is his memory of who he is convinced he saw coming out of the early morning meeting. So really, that's the biggest part, right? Because he said that he saw the head of security, and I guess later on he said something about Erika Kirk or somebody, that guy who's now taken over for Erika, who's her former boyfriend. I don't know what it is, but you can't confirm that, right? That can't be confirmed, and this isn't confirmed either, right? We continue to focus on our investigation at those points and remain open to the possibility that people he believes he saw may have been misidentified. But this morning meeting clearly important. They're sending out everyone to try to delegitimize it. If you have more tips, go to this thing with her. So here's the report, right, that she claims is the whatever it is. Fort Hoapta, a military police station. We dispatched upon arrival, who stated that an individual entered the building with a backpack, making concerning comments. The bag was taken away and placed outside on the north side of the building and called police station to report the incident. Sergeant McLean, a gray-colored Equinox plate, this number. So she just outed the guy's license plate. For the odor of explosives, she could have blocked that one out. Mr. Stowe stated that he used to work in the Joint Task Force in the 80s, so she outed his name. Mr. Snow has also stated that he's threatened by cartels and he needed to talk to someone about. Why show up? Like, this sounds like a crazy fucking person, right? Carlson arrived on the scene and requested the building. He evacuated to the suspicious package. The building was evacuated. The patrols secured both entrance and area. Chief Davidson also arrived on the scene to assist. K-9 unit, Chevy Equinox. So she's outed the guy's last name and his name, and then his name and his license plate of his car. It doesn't say anything about Blake Neff's brother or cousin. It doesn't say anything about, and it sounds like a crazy person. It shows up in a military base and has a crazy story about cartels. Imagine what they were like when this guy shows up at this Fort Hawatcha, military base, carrying a backpack. I mean, they were right to think it might be a bomb because he sounds like a fucking crazy person, right? What is he doing there 35 years later? Like, that whole thing is his motivation. And then going in there, if you're an ex-military, you know how it's going to be perceived unless you're a crazy person. Okay. So to show up at your job 35 years later, like, think about any job you had 35 years ago. I mean, many of you aren't even 35 years old, right? The guys, and you show up at your job and, this is a military establishment, a military base, so they have big security concerns. It's just a bad idea. Like, you're not going to get any fucking answers 35 years later. They're not going to open up the files to you. There's nothing there. Like, he said, I used to be a part of this unit. And they're like, come on over to our secret fucking base. Bring your backpack, right? Like, it's just, the story's fucking goofy. Like, it's just a bad decision making. I worked at this treatment center. And, I was a prominent figure in the cottage I used to work in. And I came back like 6 months later, and, one of my coworkers said I should swing by, and they brought me in, and they had a manager who came in and wrecked the place, and pretty much everyone I worked with quit, except for this one guy that was there, and he said it's horrible. And he was having fights with the manager, and the manager came up and said, you just can't come in here, like he was all bitchy about it. And I was like, yeah, I didn't plan on doing that. Somebody said to swing by, and I didn't know it was going to be back in the cottage area. But it was only 6 months afterwards, right? And people still knew me there. Like, it wasn't 35 years later. You come back to a job, it's like going back to your high school and shit, and you're looking for answers. Like, like, looking for some closure. I mean, this is a military base. So, and coming in with a backpack, you would know this as a military person, that your story sounds crazy. And, because you used to do this job. And so the whole thing sounds sketchy. But while he's in there, the claims of him being there, like, all right, he was there. Okay, they placed this guy there. And maybe this was all a staged thing, this report, because Candace is, a part of this, whatever whatever's happening here. But, Candace's whole thing is, and most people's whole thing, is you can't trust the official story. You can't trust people. Everybody but her in this report, right? You can't trust the feds, and then, so you trust this guy that comes off the street. Maybe he's a disinformation agent sent out to her to embarrass her, or maybe she's part of it, whatever the thing is. And this is what I always say. When something actually comes of this, not just a bunch of dumb fucks believing they have some inside information, their junior fucking detective bullshit. If there's something comes of it other than a bunch of people think they now know what happened to Charlie Kirk and it involved Fort Huachawawa and Egyptian planes and all, it just keeps on adding layers of fucking crazy. Like, this thing just gets crazier and crazier and less believable and easier to mock. And she's like, oh my God, all the disinformation agents are out there taking away my credibility or going after my credibility. You have no credibility. You have credibility when something actually happens. Because even if all this stuff was true, how does this translate to accountability? When does the system hold any of this accountable? When does the official, the media cover this and say the official story is bullshit? When are there arrests of people other than this patsy? When is there people in power who are behind this? We still haven't gotten to the JFK stuff. I mean, think about all the information that was presented about JFK after the shooting, and for, whatever amount of years, 60 years it is, 65 years or whatever it is, right? I mean, it's, like, when do you get some kind of confirmation of the actual? I mean, Trump just released all the files, and they didn't have enough in on them to make them substantial. So when does it become something, right? When does this become something? When is this, actualized in some way? Because it never happens, right? Like, it never fucking happens. And so, like, this goofy report, yeah, okay, that reports that this guy who you've now given us his car and his license plate, a guy who the fucking cartel once was looking for, you just give it his name, the car he drives, and the rest of his identified information on the internet. You just dox the fucking guy. Because I think his whatever Mitch wasn't even his real name. And so, it's just goofy. Like, yeah, okay, there's a report here, but that doesn't signify anything, but it does to dumb fucks. Oh my God, this must be true. Look at this report. He went in and they thought he was a crazy fuck with a bomb. Yes, you got it. Oh wow, you're rocking it, right? Like, this is just the stupidity that I've talked about. But even if everything was true, nothing ever happens. And so, the crazier you make it sound, it like doesn't help the situation or the truth community or the rest of it. In fact, it makes it, because everybody associates all right, so there's the official story, and now the dominant unofficial story is this fucking thing with this guy Mitch and Candace Owens and the dopes that follow her and all this stuff, the people who believe in her bullshit. And now it's tied to the president's wife of France being a dude, and the French Foreign Legion and the French government and DuPont and Egyptian planes, and maybe somewhere it started off with Israel, and then, people at TPUSK, and there's these other things. Like, why don't you release the documents about that one guy, Tyler, whatever his name is, the guy who was second in command to Charlie Kirk, who was hitting on male interns, and he was all the information you have, because she said she had documentation of that, and that would really crush TPUSK in ways that would be, At least that would be something, right? Something substantial. Like, do things that could actually have an effect. When Tyler Boyer is his name, if he turns out to be gay and he was hitting on young interns over there, and, report about the Grinder site collapsing and crashing, some gay hookup site, this is what I'm talking about. So, there's some kind of weird text message I got. If you're not going to legitimately prove something, then just all these fucking, like I said, Candace Owens is the rabbit hole. So then you have the official story, which is not believable, and then this story, which is even less believable, right? Because of all the moving parts. And, like, it isn't like the Egyptian planes are leading to something. This looks really suspicious. This doesn't sound right to me. There's something going on here. This is like shit she says, right? I don't know what it is. Like, this doesn't fishy. My fucking spidey sense is going off. Like bullshit. It's nothing, right? And, like, you could just make this up. Like, you could just print this thing off. Like, you could write this up on your own. Like, you could just make up these. Now, I'm not saying she did that. You could have ChatGPT to create a report, right? Like, but you could do it yourself. I mean, in the old days. And so what I'm saying is this doesn't prove shit, right? But she's going after all the disinformation. Find your favorite podcast who are joining the psychological operation to convince you Mitch was lying about having been at Fort Hacha Wacha Wuchu. No, we think that you're all fucking lying and you're a liar and you're, whatever you're doing isn't going to lead to anything, right? You just keep on throwing out more bullshit, right? So she wants you to go to me or anybody else who calls bullshit on her stuff. But at the end of the day, how does this translate to something actually happening? So what you do is you have people accept the official story, and this is the secondary story you have to accept. Not that Israel acted alone or in conjunction with the U.S. government to pull off like some kind of hit on Charlie Kirk. No, it's got to be fucking Egyptian planes and the French Foreign Legion and military personnel. There's like 1,000 fucking people involved in this thing to kill one fucking dude, right? A civilian, an unarmed civilian with sketchy security. I mean, like you have his security, and you have to have his wife. That's the one person you have to have. Like I've explained that before. If you're going to pull this off, she has to be in on it. And like all these people have to be involved. Like all you need is like a gun and a dude, like a fucking like it's a sniper and maybe a couple of support people. But no, they have to have the fucking all the feds and all these people involved and so many moving parts and all these people who know it's bullshit. Like if you have 1,000 people who all know it's a conspiracy and it's fake, and you expect every one of them to keep their mouth shut and not tell their significant others, or it's a goofy fucking story. It's impractical, and she runs out of things. This thing is gonna it's not gonna lead to anything. So she has to come up with another layer of fucking bullshit, right? And it might be being provided by the CIA or whatever agency she works for. But, any podcaster who calls her on her bullshit, you guys should go over there and say, hey, we saw the report from Fort Hawacha Wua, and Mitch Snow, Mr. Snow, walked in there with a backpack and a story about cartels hunting him down and how he wanted to get to the bottom of things 35 years later, like he walked in like out of the fucking jungle or something. All right, so that's the Candace Owens. More layers of bullshit from her. So I clicked out of the Candace thing, then I went right to X. And I never go through X. I never go through Twitter. Like I just, I don't even really know how to scroll through it. Like I look through Facebook because it's familiar to me visually. It's hard for me to do Instagram. The pictures, the videos are too big, and so I don't do this on my phone, just on my computer. And the headline was, "This is Erika Kirk moments after Charlie Kirk was assassinated." And this is that rapper Psy. It's getting ready to come out here. I think that's Psy. So, so that was the first thing, right? Then the very next thing, this photo comes from Erika Kirk's Instagram. It was taken in August 2012 in Constanța, Romania, while she was promoting the charity Romanian Angels, located in U.S. military base run by U.S. Colonel Otto Boucher, a whistleblower, uncovered the charity as a front for trafficking underage girls, but authorities did not investigate. And there she is, pointing her weapon, giving her that fucking crazy ass look of hers, right? Um, so like those are the first two things I saw on Instagram. And, like what I was saying about Candace Owens, you can lose the court of public opinion. Like the majority of people see through Erika Kirk's bullshit, don't like her, think it's fucked up, right? Don't believe her. And they come up with anything whatever. She has her followers and her supporters. She has some people that have stayed with her. But if you take the bulk of TPUS Gay and Charlie Kirk's audience, which was already started to turn on him and Turning Point because they started to turn on Israel. And so he was moving away from that, trying to retain his audience. But now she's doubled down with her support of Israel. And so, I don't follow anybody. I went and I saw that I don't know if Twitter had just followed people for me, because I don't remember hitting the follow button. But I had just, maybe some people had followed me when I first went on Twitter years ago. But I hadn't followed everybody, so I have kind of a blank account. And these are the first two things they recommended this morning. Of course, I just looked at the Candace Owens thing, so that would be, a part of the algorithm, part of what they would be pitching here. But, like they just don't look at her like fucking. And so she, how big are these guys? She's tall. What are these guys, like 6, whatever they are. I'm going to double check this to be on her Instagram. But either way, there's so many memes about her. A lot more memes about her than Candace Owens. And Candace Owens, like, she's just somebody talking. Erika Kirk is establishment figure, right? She is somebody who, runs this organization now. So they've lost the court of public opinion. And for an organization that relies on donations and influence, that's something. Like, they're fucked. But it doesn't mean that the official story is ever going to be called out or ever questioned, or, it's just a bunch of people don't believe the official story. And they can deal with that. Like, they don't care. They don't care if the court of public opinion, they would rather have everyone on their side, but it also adds a layer of whether it's a distraction or some other thing to the story. Keep people from, focusing on the real issue here and focusing on like something that would solve the problem, like connecting to the divinity within them and changing personally. It keeps people externalized and into this, world of truth or gossip and, that has no resolution, right? Okay. This is the NORAD Santa tracker. He's in Mongolia. I do this every year. I don't know fucking why. I think it's a little different every year. The reindeer it's a little bit more AI this year, maybe. A little bit more topographic. This is like they've upgraded. This is your tax dollars at work. NORAD, these guys show up on Christmas Day or Eve. The military guys volunteer for this and pretend to track Santa Claus with, and they do a thing. There's other stuff goes on with it. And he goes across the frickin' whatever, this whole fuck. And I do always do a spiel about how this is a deception. It's bullshit. It's teaching people to do a mass deception and psychological. It's a gateway. It's innocent little, Santa Claus who's, Santa's an anagram for Satan, like, and he fucking, this obese fuck climbs down your chimney and eats your cookies and leaves little deposits for your children. Anyways, Santa. I think that's enough for this year. Okay, part 2 here. Somebody sent me this. We gotta do it again. Gotta stop it before. Here we go. I can't do it.
Part of this, aren't you?
Roman! Meryl! You are scaring me!
You're scaring me, Meryl. What are you gonna do? You're part of this, aren't you?
All right, Charlie J. Kirk. All right, I searched through Erika J. Kirk's Instagram, and I had to go back to August 2012 to see if that picture was real. And it wasn't on her Instagram. I don't know if it's a Wayback Machine, but there were a lot of weird shit in her thing. She does a lot of posing. Like, I could have went through it and did videos on it, but it's just, I mean, they just fucking Erika Kirk. But she did have a lot of stuff in August of 2012 for that, that Angels project, that Romanian Angels thing, that adoption thing that looks very suspect. And a lot of weird pictures, she did a lot of modeling, a lot of, she's definitely grifting, like she's been grifting for a while. All right, so that's this. Okay, all the Erika Kirk stuff and the Candace Owens thing, that just happened spontaneously today. This is the only thing I wanted to talk about. It's not so much about Erika Kirk, and, we'll see these things. So first, this thing happened.
Despite the devastating loss of Charlie Kirk, my incredible husband at UVU, Caleb has persisted with the same gift. Grit. It has been a long day. Trust me, you're not a grifter, honey. It's all good.
You're not a grifter, honey. Sounds like a country song. You're not a grifter, honey. You just play one on TV, So, I don't know, maybe because someone could take that and run with it. So, all right, so that happened, right? We saw that already. And then, like, a couple days later, Nicki Minaj goes, well, hold my beer, because, like, here, we'll go to that one. So 2 days later, Monica J. Kirk is off the hook because Nicki Minaj.
And you have amazing role models like the assassin J.D. Vance, our vice president. And when
So think about this. I mean, I want to show you the end again, so why not? But, because then she freaks out. But, like, look at her. She goes down like, oh, my God, you just fucking say that? Now, like if you said, all right, these things were Freudian slips, where Nicki Minaj knows that J.D. Vance is an assassin, a.k.a. Charlie Kirk, whatever that fucking means, right? I mean, he wouldn't be the assassin, but whatever. And Erika Kirk knows she's a grifter, and these things just slipped out. Like, let's say, like, this was, everyone just knew immediately, So, I've told this story before, but my brother, I go up to visit my brother, and he lived in Great Barrington, Massachusetts, which is really close to upper state New York, and it's where that dude wrote Moby Dick. The famous authors were there. Like, this is, places where, these old school authors, is it Melville wrote Moby Dick? And some of these other people were there, around that time. And he was up there, and he had left his wife on his middle son's birthday for a young blonde girl that was, in her 30s. He was probably he was probably 15 years older than she was. And she was batshit crazy. Like, nobody liked her. She was just disturbed. And I go up to meet him, and his neighbor comes over, and she's like a 25-year-old girl. Like, she's younger than I am. And my brother's 17 years older than me. Like, I would be like, that girl's kind of on the young side kind of thing, right? And my brother's like into her, and she wants to, he's going to drive her somewhere. And she's kind of flirting, whatever it is. And then we're going to go out and have lunch with his girlfriend. And the term cock block had just come out. My nephew had said it. And my brother, was like, his girlfriend was cock blocking him from banging this 25-year-old girl, which both of them were both of them were really bad decisions. And I'm like, and I'm younger than my brother, going, Jesus Christ, you're having a fucking, but he had, had issues with this kind of stuff before, but he's having he's already has a bad situation because of the first girl, and he's going to add this to it. And she's kind of like crazy psychic. And we go to some diner or some fucking place to eat. And in the middle of the fucking meal, he just says, cock block, just for no reason. And, I can't not laugh when something's like, if I'm not supposed to laugh, that makes it even funnier. So, I'm incapable of not laughing if I'm supposed to suppress my laugh, like it's been proven. There's enough data on that it's like not something in my wheelhouse. And so I'm laughing, right? But she says what? And then right before she reacted slightly quicker than I did. And I'm laughing and she's looking at him with like, like, why did you say that kind of thing? And my brother's trying to fucking make up some bullshit. I'm like, and I'm trying not to like just lose it completely, right? And so she goes back into her car, and I'm either driving my brother. I don't know what it was, but I think I must have been driving him. And he goes, "Holy shit, I want to get caught, right? I'm cheating again, because he had cheated on his wife for years, and like, I want to get caught." And I'm like, "Yeah, fucking you do. Like, what the fuck are you doing?" So, when people just say something incriminating, or just some random thing happens, but then it leads to deeper issues. It might not even be a Freudian slip, but it's like draws everyone's attention. And so, Erika Kirk being a grifter, which she is not quite as bad as J.D. Vance being an assassin. And then she just makes it work here.
Say that.
Trust me, there's nothing new under the sun that I have not heard, so you're fine.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not a name. It's like fucking, it's an accusation, bro.
Yes, we did. I love you. I love you. You have to laugh about it, truly. I have been called every single thing, and you know what? God is so good, you let it roll right off your back, and this is what's so beautiful.
Okay, so we saw this. But, everything about that was weird. Now, is that intentional? Like, that's the only question here. Is it intentional, or, like, are they just fucking unraveling? Is everything unraveling? Because that was, I'm sure, and there was they had a tent outside, the one that Charlie Kirk was killed in, that people were taking selfies in. They had his microphone from that day that was framed. Weird fucking shit throughout. I mean, the way that she was dressed, the way she was acting, throughout the thing. I mean, it was a weird fucked up thing, right? J.D. Vance's song that I covered yesterday, that weird song from 1970 that had a character named Charlie. He was working for the FBI, and he was, there's some long-legged black dress woman song, whatever it is. Weird shit, right? Just all of it. Like, are they just fucking like they are completely incompetent, or is this some way to, whatever? Like, I mean, it's hard to say. Like, both things there's strong case for either one. And so there's that. Okay, so this is going around as well. One of my viewers, or a couple of my viewers, sent this to me on Instagram. She's in Charlie's office, and she's going to find a piece of paper that's kind of defines their relationship. She has a really big face. Like, her face is expanding, like a mask, like, and her eyes she looks really crazy here. She stares in the camera.
He wanted to be prepared for the week ahead, and he loved having
like this. Her eyes just look very, very, bad lighting for her, because she looks just crazy. Those crazy eyes. And again, these eyes are soulless. She obviously feels things. She emotes, anger, and intensity. She laughs a lot, but like just almost like an alien or a robot or something, like just, it's hard to really describe her, weirdness, because it's, it's not typical human behavior.
Sunday as his planning day. I'm actually sitting in his office. This is his home office, and I haven't not been in here for a very long time, and I've just been, that's part of the reason why I keep looking down. It's not because I'm not wanting to look at you, it's because like there are so many treasures in here. Like, for instance, like this piece of paper, he wrote on everything. He has papers everywhere. This says, it's the priorities. It says family, children, legacy, kids number one.
And so he left her off, right? Like, were they even married? Like, your spouse, I mean, when you first have kids, people put their kids in front of their spouse, but like it's a team effort. Like you need to stay together as a team. As you get older, you realize your kids are leaving. And especially now where kids hate you or, there's minimal contact. We tried to have an intergenerational family farm. That was the goal, and that fell apart. But even then, it has to be your spouse is your life partner. And, your kids, you have your duty to your kids and you love your kids. But they're never, and you always want the future to be better. You want your kids to have a better life, all that kind of thing. But, your spouse is so fucking important in terms of all of that. Like, none of those things happen if you don't have a good relationship with your spouse. When you're fighting and arguing, like everybody knows this. If you're on a team and there's infighting, if you're in a family and there's infighting, if you're in a business, there's infighting. One time one of my managers at the many restaurants I worked at said, it just takes one negative person in a restaurant, like a wait staff, and before you know it, you have to fire the whole staff. Because someone starts pointing out all the negative shit, and it's like a cancer, and I've seen it happen, and so like the negativity, all those things. When you have disputes and you have a bad marriage, your kids suffer. Your kids do not get, all kids grow up in a fractured, divorced family, especially when the parents really end up hating each other. It affects them negatively. Everyone knows that. Like, so, his wife should have been on this list, right? Like, she wasn't even an afterthought.
Priorities. It says family, children, legacy, kids number one, versus careerism, consumerism, and loneliness. That's interesting. I don't know. I could spend hours.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting that you weren't on that list. And where's the loneliness, right? And he was career oriented. They say what a great family guy he was. But he was spending way too much time working. He was working 60, 80 hours a week. You don't have the proper amount of time with your kids. You just don't. Like whatever time he had when he came home, you read a story, whatever it is. It's most of your waking hours are working. Now she's doing the same thing. All these interviews, all this stuff. You need lots more time with your kids if they're going to make them number one priority. And he didn't need hundreds of millions of dollars, right? He just had to crank out a solid living. And, he was traveling. Like, if he's traveling, how many days over the year? Let's say he travels half the year. They don't see his kids during that entire time. And so, like, she didn't like to travel with him. She said it. And so, like, as kids get older, they're in school, they can't travel. So, none of those things. He's just bullshit writing things on the paper. But it doesn't seem like they had a real marriage, right?
In this at this desk, but my point is with little things like that is that he would sit here on Sundays.
The point is, he left you off the list. Why did he say his wife, right?
I could spend hours at this desk, but my point is with little things like that is that he would sit here on Sundays.
They must have cut off a reaction or something. Like they must have edited something out there. Like there's a glitch here.
That's interesting. I don't know.
See, like they froze her.
One versus careerism, consumerism, and loneliness. That's interesting. I don't know. I could spend hours at this desk, but
find little notes where he excluded me. Like they don't have a fucking marriage, right? Like
But my point is with little things like that is that he would sit here on Sundays.
And not even with his kids, right? Like he's coming there on Sunday, not the Sabbath, because Shabbat Shalom, right? But he would come in there on Saturdays or Sundays just to get away from her and the fucking kids. Like you couldn't spend all day with your kids.
Writing, using his journal, like going through all these drawers, and he was preparing
for death, dying.
For the week ahead, he was putting on his armor for battle, metaphorically, and he took that time on Sunday after being with
the Lord
on Saturday and with the family.
Sunday's the real Sabbath for Christians. Anyways, you get the idea. So let's move on from Erika J. Kirk and the TPUSK thing. So I saw this ad on MS Now. They're putting their own ads out, right? They do really shitty promos. I don't think it was CNN. I think it's always been MSNBC. Maybe CNN did some of the other. See a man hand here. This isn't the one I saw, but I'll show you the one I saw. I'll show both of them that are up. This is called We the People. The Constitution Preamble.
We the people
Boom. We the people.
of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union,
Okay, so I'm going to copyright this song. Hopefully not.
establish justice,
Justice. Just us. Protect our Constitution. See, the Republicans used to be the party of the Constitution. Like the Democrats would talk about it, and under a certain extent. But, it was always the libertarians, the right-wing Christians, right-wing Republicans, the Oath Keeper type people. People swore the Constitution is just it's just like the Bible. It's it's a document. It's got good things in it, bad things in it, but it's like anything else. There's a standard set up in the Bible for people, the behaviors and the character qualities that are, the good things in the Bible and the good things in the Constitution. There's a standard of, how do we make sure this doesn't become a tyrant-run situation, a kingdom, a monarchy, an evil monarchy. How do we keep this from being corrupt? How do we keep this being small government? All the things they put in the Constitution, including they didn't want to have a standing army. They just wanted everyone to have guns and volunteer when, which is, that ship has long since sailed. We have the most evolved army ever. And so, it's the opposite of what they put out there. And the checks and balances are gone. And everything's corrupted by money. Like everything's been bought and sold. So, but that's how it always is. Like the thing starts off with a pure idea. And then it just goes south. It doesn't get better. And that's the problem with people. Like you have a good idea, whatever is good about the Constitution. And, it's a code of conduct. And instead of like, all right, that's a good place to start off, where can we go from here? And this is why I talk about spirituality, the divinity within you. It is an overwhelming failure by all human beings and all of us collectively that we start off at our highest point when we, whatever this is, your idealistic period when you're in college or whatever it might be, these things that when you're becoming a young adult, you start off, your purest point when you're a kid, when you're born, you're a blank slate. And then you just go south. Like, so this Constitution and everything else, like the Bible, starts off with all the good ideas and all the hope for helping people to become better. Because there's things in every government, in every religion, in every, whatever it is, economy, every system out there, communism, capitalism, all of it. There's potential for people to do better, to be selfless, to start off, at their lowest point and then go up from there in terms of character qualities and becoming a person. But it's just the opposite, right? Because the Constitution, why even talk about this shit? Like we're degraded, capitalistic, materialistic, immoral, just incompetent, stupid, fucking, retarded, entitled, all these things. And so it's just gotten worse. And it's getting worse each year. Like we see it. We see people are degrading each year, going lower.
ensure
See, they put all their people in there.
domestic tranquility,
This is their idea of domestic tranquility. These two dudes, right? These guy, Gumby Joe and Mika. Domestic tranquility. Boom. That guy. This guy right here, this lesbian. Boom. They put Pasaki behind a wall.
provide for the common defense,
Boom. Look at them go. Look at those guys all go.
promote the general welfare,
Boom.
and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity.
Boom. Bring it. Bring that fucking thing, Rachel Maddow.
do ordain
Look at that guy. Look at this guy, Willie Geist.
and establish.
That witch. Look at them all pose. Try to look majestic. Try not to look like a witch. Try not to look like an asshole.
This Constitution for the United States of America.
Boom.
We the free, we the proud, we the brave, we the people.
Boom. Rachel Maddow makes $30 million a year and works 1 day a week. Like she works Mondays and like on elections. So that's the first one they put out. So this is called We the People, the Human Family, featuring, I forget what her name is.
I was asked to say something wise.
Maya Angelou.
To have some wise words. I note the obvious differences.
Okay, I'm going to turn this off because I don't want the music to be copyrighted. All right, so look at they put all these people here, right? They put like models and actors, right? With not really models, but kind of actors, right? They put this dude out there. And then these dudes, look at them. And then these guys playing soccer, and that woman, and those people, and these folks, and these people helping people out, and that guy washing windows, and these people, and that guy in the restaurant who's an actor, and this guy and an actor, and this person who's an actor, and all those people who are actors, and then Maya Angelou again, and then this woman, and then boom, that witch who's an actor, right? Like, how do you, what's this hairdo? Boom, that lesbian dude, and those guys, and those actors, and that actor, and that woman at the UN, and that frickin' ghoul, holy shit. Looks like, I mean, could you, I mean, I can't fake smile, so I shouldn't, but this is your job. Like, if you're going to fake, like, boom, look at her, look at you, boom. Turn to the side, Jen Psaki. Wait, 1, 2, 3. She's clearly uncomfortable. Like this fucking, this dead person. And boom, boom. And that actor, and those guys, and that reporter, and those actors, and those people, and that pregnant woman, and those kids smiling, and those kids snotting on their parents' shoulders. We the people. MS Now. All right. So that's what they're working with. So this is tardive dyskinesia. I think I don't know. This. I don't think I covered this already. But these people have tardive dyskinesia.
Your mental health is better, but having uncontrollable body movements called TD, tardive dyskinesia,
Boom. No one needs that shit.
can feel
I wonder if I could fake that, like Parkinson's. I mean, Tourette syndrome.
embarrassing.
I asked my doctor about treating my TD with
Ingrezza.
Ingrezza.
#1 prescribed Ingrezza is clinically proven to treat TD, quickly reducing TD movements by greater than 5 times at 2 weeks.
5 times at 2 weeks. 2 weeks, 5 times reduction.
98% of people were still satisfied with Ingrezza after 2 years, and you can keep taking most mental health meds.
Ingrezza can cause depression, suicidal thoughts, or actions in patients with Huntington's disease. Call your
Suicidal thoughts, depression, and suicidal thoughts, mood changes, only for Huntington's disease, but not maybe just Huntington's disease and other things.
doctor if you become depressed, have sudden behavior or mood changes, or suicidal thoughts. Don't take Ingrezza if allergic. Serious side
Again, what do you mean if we're allergic? How do you know unless you take it, right? I say this every time.
effects may include allergic reactions like sudden, potentially fatal swelling and high.
Fatal swelling and fucking hives? Fatal swelling. What is fatal swelling? Holy shit. So you swell so much that it's fatal.
Sleepiness, the most common side effect, and heart rhythm problems. Know how Ingrezza affects you before operating a car or dangerous machinery.
Holy shit. Like fucking Ingrezza.
Report fever, stiff muscles, or problems thinking, as these might be life-threatening. Shaking, stiffness, drooling, and trouble with moving or balance may occur.
taking control starts with asking your doctor.
It sounds like all those things make it like worse. Like those things sound like the same thing, the symptoms you described at the beginning with tardive dyskinesia. And like those things at the end, like not driving equipment and losing your balance and some of these other things, sounds like it's taking what was there and making it worse, right? Okay, this is from the Daily Mail. Shocking scene unfolded in the Middle East when the waters of the Persian Gulf turned red. Looks like this is running from clay. But, you know. This is the first time. This has happened a lot recently, and I don't know if it's just because there's so much more video cameras and shit out there, but like not just there, other places. So that's kind of creepy, right? That ain't a good sign. Okay, so maybe a couple years ago, I covered Corey J. Feldman, the ultra talented actor and singer and dancer. You know, he's on all these reality TV shows when things went tits up for him. And he created this group called Corey's Angels, which was like a project where he'd bring these girls in. They had to wear lingerie constantly around the house. He got to eat meat, but they had to be vegan because he didn't want them getting fat. Kind of starved them, and he was trying to help them with their career. And he married one that we called his Mangel, who I believe is this one, his main angel. And it was cultish and abusive, and I had all kinds of memes for him and all kinds of stuff. And then, you know, he just went south with the whole trying to cash in on the Me Too movement with the childhood abuse stuff in Hollywood. And we pretended, or we went and did a GoFundMe thing. He started his own social media network, and they found out it was all trolls. Like, the only people who would pay to subscribe to it were people who wanted to shit on him. And then there was some guy, last name was Wolf. And that guy, they used to take some of my videos and use them, you know, whatever it was. Like, they would... there's a group of people that was out there just to fucking stalk Corey Feldman. They called themselves the Wolf Pack. And Corey Feldman was whining about them, right? So... someone sent me this.
It goes right. A solo light comes on me.
Boom. Yeah, it does. You deserve that solo light.
A lot of people think, well, he had all these big movies in the 80s, and that was like his hot point, and now it's just kind of, you know, him trying to stay in the limelight. Come on, guys!
Yeah, that's 100. Why do you even bother to say people think that? That was, like, if anything's factual, it's that. Like, I mean, he was on this reality TV show with that guy. He was the singer. His brother was in, not In Sync, but that other thing, Backstreet Boys. His name will come up. But he was that really bad rapper that turned out to be bisexual, and he was hilarious until he died, right? Nick, not Nick, but his brother was Nick, whatever his name was. We'll think about it.
Let's not spend all night in front of these lights. Look, this project is about to be like the biggest thing in the world.
I never played electric bass in my life.
So, you know, put on some black and pink lipstick and be in Corey's band. You don't need to be able to play the instruments. You just got to put on lingerie and swing back and forth. It's not necessary to play the instruments.
So...
if you're for the dark side, and you're a Satanist or a cultist, and
then you come join my club.
You want to sit there and be dismissive about my art or what I do.
It really is the worst album of the year.
Let's put it very simply. I'm a light worker.
We're sweating and hot on a bus, dude.
I spread positive.
Dude. He's a look at that face. Doesn't he look like a light worker, right? Doesn't he look like a light worker?
Messages. I spread love and light.
Corey's Angels, which is really a cult.
Aaron Carter was his name. Aaron Carter and him were on a reality TV show where they brought their siblings in. Aaron Carter brought his momager, and Corey brought his brother in, who was like just an absolute gem. And you know, they had to do like couples therapy or like family therapy. And it was a reality show. It was amazing. I never saw the whole show. I just saw clips. And one time, Aaron Carter and Corey Feldman were chasing each other, and one of them slipped and got hurt. I think it was Corey. They were playing grab ass.
his little system of just disgusting behavior.
This cult, I love it. I'm all about it then if it's a cult.
Whoa. Look at that fine figure of a man.
You're going down and you don't even see it.
Like, you don't have proof.
No! What does the contract say?
I'm drawing a line in the sand. That is what God told me to do. He used
God told him to do that.
those words specifically.
It frightened the girls.
God said, draw the line in the sand.
So much.
Why are you sitting down talking to me? Why aren't you sitting down with the police right now?
He's basically just a walking.
Or remember, so Corey, somebody, like he had security, and somebody opened up his door, locked door with a magnet, and stabbed him, injected him, stabbed. He first said he stabbed him. It turned out to be a pinprick. Remember, like it was just a pinprick. And then he was like, well, maybe I could get infected and I'll die in 6 months. It was like the guy, I mean, it was the smallest little pinprick, right? You know, like Corey said, he got stabbed, remember?
Target.
I'm sorry, it's not a Lolita costume, it's an angel costume. It makes you look beautiful. Do you ever feel like a Lolita wearing your costume, dear?
No, I don't even know what a Lolita is.
Of course you don't, bro. Like how's that not a dude? I don't know what I don't know.
Lolita wearing your costume, dear?
No. I don't even know what a Lolita is.
Look at that dude right there. Corey Feldman versus the world.
And that's just the way the cookie crumbles.
So I guess that's on fucking Apple TV right now. Hopefully they don't copyright it. I guess I have to watch that. I don't know. I'm going to wait till after the holidays. The fifth and final stage of grief, glitter suit. This just came in. The memes, they're tagging her. Like this is just, I get Erika Kirk memes with my, exploitive Christian jewelry on Facebook. Like if I'm scrolling through, there's like a post from a friend, some person I don't know that's called a friend on Facebook. And then there's like 10 different kinds of ads. And, three of them are like jewelry ads. And there'll be like 2 memes of Erika Kirk. And so, or Turning Point USK. And then they'll have like an ad of Charlie's books they're trying to sell. Stop in the name of God. Shabbat Shalom. Okay, so I got some comments I'm going to read. And people had mentioned, and this has come up a few times, that when I do the Stop the Hammering, they bring up the Bill Murray scene from Scrooged. And in fact, someone had mentioned that maybe a couple years ago. And I incorporated that into a separate meme, which I don't show that much. I have 2 versions of the Stop the Hammering, but one I included the Bill Murray stuff. And so, in celebration of Christmas, let's roll that one back. Let's take the dust off of that one and roll it out here.
Demanding to know, where's Nancy?
Stop the hammering out there. Who's got a hammer? Where is it?
I don't know.
Where's the hammer?
No. Would you hold the hammering, please?
Is it on the... Go up on the other floor. Somebody go up there and stop the hammering. Stop the hammering.
I better go. You're busy.
No, don't go. Would you hold the hammering, please?
Call Griffin. I don't care who the to call. Stop the hammering.
And, to not eat clams is what hell's life for. Would you please, for the love of God and your own body, hold the hammering?
Empty out the goddamn control room and find out where this is going on. It's either there, or out there somewhere.
Out of control. Jesus Christ. Crazy sound coming in my ear. This stupid hammering.
Coming as it does at the season of giving. Would you please hold the goddamn hammering now?
You got it.
I told you why I wanted those words cut. It just sucks. It sucks to be out here with this out of control Any thing can come into my ear at any moment. These things. How do you say this guy's last name? Demanding to know, where's Nancy?
Okay, so this is going to be story time with Uncle Paulie. I got mostly positive comments, and I think a few of them triggered stories that I cannot remember right now, but hopefully when I read the comment, they will they'll come back around. I don't want to put Uncle Paulie in the title because that'll just be a problem, but I'll also put story time with Paulie because, you know, that'll just be a thing. I'm sorry I said it, but I don't want to go back, and I'm too lazy to erase it. A person wrote, you said you talk about how low vibe stuff to attract possible spiritual people. You said you talk about low vibe stuff to attract possible spiritual people. I understand how tough that is. I find it tough to listen about these people too. But gems I wait for, like you said, most spiritual people in today's world are fucked up people. That nails me. It's a good reminder to humble myself. I do meditations, and thank you taught them to me. You taught me them. I didn't say I mean, this person's just paraphrasing, but I didn't say I make the low vibe stuff to attract possible people. What I said was, you know, I was in India. You know, my mom had just passed away, and we had some money left over from a sale of a house. And we were looking maybe to, you know, settle in India, which wasn't an option. But really, you know, you have to have 13 years to become an Indian citizen. You have to learn the language and do a bunch of shit. And you have to live there for 13 years, which is like almost impossible. And so you need like a business visa, and they're just really dickish about it. They have too many people anyway. It's mostly to keep poor people out of the country, but, you know, and it really wasn't a viable option to live there. And, you know, I mean, in retrospect, I'm over the moon that didn't happen. So this was, I think, my 4th trip to India. And, you know, it was the first time I just loved India. Like the other times I saw the spiritual benefit and I felt some kind of past life connection. But in this trip, these series of trips, this 2 years, I just loved the place, and I just didn't want to leave. And there was this idea of an intergenerational family farm. You need support system if you're going to, you know, live off the grid. And, you know, we had this idea of building a gurukulam. I mean, this is back when my kids were turning into their teen years, so it was kind of late in the game. And I just wanted to get an up and down answer to see if there was any chance of a community. Now, so what we were doing as a family came out of the teachings of the system, of the Sajmark system. And so, you know, it's not unthinkable that there would be people who would have read the same books and the Whispers of the Brighter World messages. Now, first of all, the prophecies, I thought I had the prophecies out there for everybody, but I'm going to publish. I got to go find the video. I have it for members, and I don't want to use that one. I want to re-upload the whatever it is. But I'm going to read 2 of the prophecies when I talk about the New Year's Eve. You know, the New Year's, the year of, right? Well, a week from today, I guess it'll be the video that'll come out on New Year's Eve, or the day before, whatever it is. The last video I put up before the New Year, and there are these prophecies, and there's also these prophetic teachings and things in Babaji's diaries, and a chapter called My Vision, and a book called Reality at Dawn. And so, for people who read these books, like people who read the Bible, you would think that you might want to prepare yourself and your kids for this predictions, right? If you believe in the system. And apparently not too many people believed in any of that shit, right? And so, you know, because they're very conventional thinking people in India, and the boomer hippies were the boomer hippies in America, and most of them were older. There wasn't really any place for us to build a community. The majority of people were in India, and I wanted to go to India and present all the stuff that we had done as a family research project, homesteading, all the things I documented in the early years of this YouTube channel. And I wanted an up and down answer. And, to see if there's any future in terms of building a community. And I talked to Dodgy, and he kind of chewed us out in a really shitty, Dodgy was a fourth master. He was going to be made master of the system. I think Chargy was about to pass away or had just passed away. And he was so goofy about it, so stupid. He was just retarded. I knew there wasn't a future for us as a family. My ex and I was clear we were getting divorced. It was just obvious that, that she was never going to be functional enough. She was just a fraud. She said she believed in these things, and I think on some level she did, but she was just never going to, she was never going to rise up to the challenge. And my kids didn't want any part of it. So it was over. I had to come to terms with that shit, right? And while I was doing that, our family was running out of money. And, they had this limited time before we had to move back to America because it was cheaper in India. We were paying $500 of rent for 3-bedroom apartment flat in India, that we'd have to pay $1,200 for in America. Everything's much more expensive in America. And so, and I had to reinvent our family and all that shit, right? And so with that, I knew that this YouTube channel, I had to talk about the spiritual stuff, and I was compelled to do it. I liked doing it. And it was, I was being prepared, and I had been prepared to do this job. And it's kind of obvious now after so many years of doing it. But I knew all this stuff. It was like a vision. I had a vision of what this YouTube channel was supposed to become. And so to make it financially viable and have an audience, I had to cover bullshit stuff. And so, I was kind of mad at God in a way, or whatever. Not mad, but, I wasn't psyched about it. But, I enjoyed it for whatever period of time. But that's the reality of the situation. People don't want to change. People don't want to hear about spiritual stuff. People are not interested in their higher nature. That's what we're dealing with. Sometimes people it'll spark some interest in spirituality, what I say here. People who don't know what they're looking for, and they're looking for an internalized relationship with God. And, like I said, spiritual people are usually pretty screwed up, and people with spiritual tendencies. In America, in India, it's not the case. A lot of people are very successful and because it's a part of their culture. But it's not really a part of our culture to be spiritual. And you're supposed to be hard. You're supposed to have a killer instinct. You're supposed to be a prick. You're supposed to be selfish. You're supposed to be, all about, your big ego. That's all things that are pushed in America. And it's counterproductive to being a spiritual person, to being on a spiritual path. And so, so that's how that all played out. I was in Sri Lanka, and my ex was going back to America because she didn't have enough thyroid medication, and she flipped the fuck out and she almost died when she went back to America and tried to go off her medication, but she would break down physically and mentally, emotionally, and she was already fucked up. So when she didn't have her thyroid medication, and she, was supposed to get enough to last her 2 years. And we're in a crisis. We overstayed our visas in India. That was a whole fucking thing. And we were in this crisis. And she throws me a bottle of pills, and she takes 2 a day, and she has fucking 20 in there. And she can't get the pills in Sri Lanka. And she's I think I should go back to America. I was what the fuck, right? And so, there's all that shit was happening at that time. And I was trying to, make this channel viable financially and, in every possible way. And so that's the story behind that. But, it was something that I have to do because that's where people are at. And myself was not somebody who, when I was younger, I was seeking God. I was interested in God. I thought about God a lot till I turned about 14 years old. And then I just became sort of punky and, I lost my way with that. And, I wasn't looking for spirituality. I wasn't looking to meditate. And so there are people like that who, their soul has already chosen this, but their egos and their consciousness still hasn't yet. And that's, where this channel is. That's the primary reason for this channel to exist, right? But it's not like I cover the stuff to to connect with spiritual people. Like I make this channel as viable and as popular as I possibly can, given my limitations, and YouTube working against me, and my personality type and these things. But in terms of getting it out there the best I can, or is it best that it can get out there in front of people, and then sprinkle in spiritual teachings with the other stuff, and maybe somebody who needs to hear that will find their way to the spiritual practice through this YouTube channel, right? But that's there's a lot of I don't want to say coincidences, but there's a lot of spiritual work. I don't know. I don't want to use the word manipulation because God isn't manipulative, but things that have to be done to get people who aren't really into spirituality and don't really know what they want, even though their soul does, to find it. So like that's kind of what we're working with here. So this comment, God is so great. He took my husband. Now I'm in charge of a company, and the motherfucker isn't around. He was always banging boys. And I said, this is a pretty good comment, right? Like I chuckled, and the person said, this is the kind of commentary I come here for. And so I was like, oh, I said that. People often quote me back to me. Sometimes I don't understand the quote, and then I have to remember it was me who said it. Then this person writes, happy Yule time from a masshole. You can add wicked retarded to make a true masshole statement. Wicked retarded. We used to say wicked in Connecticut too. Not everybody in Massachusetts is a masshole. And so these are the stories I want to tell. So, Connecticut people aren't great. And New York, New York has an accent. I was thinking about this. The first time I went to India, I flew back into Chicago. Or this may be the second time, or the third time. And I was with my family. And we come through immigration, and there's a line of people, right? All coming through immigration. And like it's very tense. So this is 2012, I think. And this person, this heavy Chicago accent, which is not a very nice accent, this person yelling, get up against the wall, like as loud as they could, to a bunch of people who may or may not even understand the language. I was in a similar situation in France. And I'm like, welcome to fucking America. Like, it was bad. But you have these accents that are very unpleasant, like the Southern accent, and there's accents in, most accents in America are pretty good, but the Boston one, I like the Boston one because it's funny. But New York is very rough. Boston's kind of rough, and then some of these other, the northeastern places. So I'd been waiting tables for about 7 or 8 years, and I was going back to get my bachelor's degree. I was almost out of the wait. I was just done. I was burnt out in waiting tables. And I went to work for this place. I split up with a woman I was engaged to. She was a nurse, and we split up, and I moved up into Massachusetts from Connecticut. She moved down towards the shore. And I found this loft apartment, and there's a guy who used to live there, who was living there before me, and he worked in this restaurant. And he told me about the restaurant. They had these big popovers. This is near Northampton, but it was in, there's a line between Holyoke and Northampton. Northampton is very liberal. It's where the Smith College is. I think it's the college that has the most lesbians. Like it's an all-girls school. And it's in a 5-college area with UMass and Amherst, a neighboring town. And there's a lot of liberal people there. And Holyoke was just full of like really real assholes. And I go to work there, and there was this, I was playing basketball, pickup basketball, and there was, a new generation of basketball players. So this is back in 1994 or 5, I guess. Somewhere around there. And, I was playing basketball, and there was these shit-talking basketball kids, punky kids that would come out, and they talk a lot of shit, and they were horrible. They had no basketball skills. They wore like a lot of gear. And there was this white guy, and he came, white kid. And, most of the people playing were white. And he comes in, he's talking like crazy fucking smack. And there's an old white guy, he's like probably 35. and this kid's like 18, and they're both pretty tall, like big guys, but the kid's pretty skinny, the other guy's pretty big. And the kid says to him, I don't know exactly the phrase to use, but he said, why don't you go home and get oral sex from your wife? Which is like, and the guy was offended, but I'm not sure he understood the comment because I sure as fuck did. And this guy was older than me. And he kind of wanted to punch the kid, but the kid was young. He didn't know if he was like fucking assaulting a minor. And the kid said, see, I confused you and I'm talking you out of your game, right? And so this kid was a real punk. And I ended up going to this restaurant and the kid's fucking working there. And he was like the best person in the fucking place. There's a guy who was a skinhead. I'm pretty sure he was like a Nazi skinhead. And he was like the angriest, nastiest person there. Kitchen staff often is very tough. But all these guys were the rudest fucking... I mean, there's one other restaurant I worked at where I was in the Virgin Islands, and there was all these, obese to really overweight island women, light-skinned, black island women who were really vulgar, but the way they talked was so like, the accent was, the island accent is very mellow, right? It was people who were from these various islands. But they were rude and they would make me feel like uncomfortable. And they would point it out. They kind of liked me, so there was no... I worked breakfast with them. But these guys in Holyoke were like... The kitchen staff would talk to the waitresses in ways that was 100% offensive. And some of these women were old with 40-year-old women with kids. And they would be saying really gross sexual shit and totally inappropriate. And they were just assholes. They were like fucking... that's what my nephew said this thing about massholes. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, these people are like the fucking worst. But, it's not all people from Massachusetts, right? They're just, I mean, yeah, it's a lot of people there. And, you're probably worse. I mean, living in the Northeast, and it's probably worse in Philadelphia. And, I don't know about New York, but, people in the Northeast part of the country, in these big cities especially, they're like the worst fucking people in America. Like, they're just... rough and obnoxious and just overbearing and just nightmares. So massholes. Okay, so what was the other thing here? I wrote this, apparently. I said this as well. Unless some dumb fuck shows up here and the person posted a laughing emoji. I know some people have made comments about your swearing, but if I find it so hilarious because you're a spiritual person, and it works together. You don't take yourself too seriously, and I found it great. Swearing does not take away your seriousness about your practice and beliefs, and who you are and who are we to judge. I remember finding out about the drinking habit of Alan Watts. It doesn't make him less brilliant. Love to your wife and animals and yourself, from France. The thing about spirituality is wherever you are spiritually, you can't bullshit it, right? You can, and anybody trying to perform and show you how spiritual they are and try to impress you with their spiritual knowledge, there's something wrong with them. They don't really have a divine connection because it's between you and God. People will figure out how spiritual you are based in the energy that you radiate, the kind of person you are, and how you affect other people. Like, do you lift them up spiritually? Is it easy for them to connect to God when they're with you? Do they, are you someone who's selfless and, just your behavior and all these things? Knowledge is great, but behavior is even a better indicator. And it's really more about how somebody relates to God within them based on being around you, right? Erika J. Kirk is great at fucking quoting the Bible. A lot of these people are. But you're around them, you're like, oh, this person's just fucking depraved, or they just don't have good spiritual energy. They don't have good loving energies. They're not there. You don't think about God when you're with them. It's not something you can perform, right? It's something where, why the fuck would you? Why would you perform like you're spiritual? Why would you want other people to think you're spiritual? Like, unless you're trying to grift and con them. And even then, why would you want to go down the thing about if you're going to defraud people, you can get money and love from people. I mean, if you're smart enough and you whatever it is, you can con people without bringing God into it. People who con people by representing God, and it's a good grift. It's a profitable grift. Like, you're fucked. Like, because you take away people's faith. You undermine their connection with God. Like, it's a real fucking piece of shit move. It's the worst thing to me. Any person who does anything, like the difference between the pedophile priests and Jeffrey Epstein is Jeffrey Epstein didn't pretend to be spiritual, right? So I knew at least one Irish woman who did the Sagemark practice who was sexually abused by a priest, and they're completely fucked over because it's a priest. Like, it's way worse it's a priest than some depraved businessman. It really fucks you over because people often think it comes from God because they associate the priest or the pastor or the guru with God, and when you fuck them over, I mean, it's when you represent God to people, it's a high price that you have to pay because you have to be really great. Like, you have to rise up to that, like that role you have to play for those people. That's why I say I don't want any part of that shit, right? Like, I mean, back when I became a preceptor, I felt a lot of pressure to be just better behaved. And people have unrealistic ideas about what a guru or a spiritual person or a saint is supposed to be like, right? Everyone has their prejudices. And, you would miss spiritual people because you think you know what they are. Like, in India, they put on these saffron robes, and, you'll see people and they'll have this spiritual way of talking, and yes, my son, it's a very performative. And it's all fake, right? You're spiritual because you have a relationship with God, and it doesn't, it's really, it's a side effect on how it affects other people. Your relationship with God emboldens or ennobles people around you, lifts people up around you. It's almost like a side effect, and people can figure it out or not. And, if it doesn't, then, it's whatever it is, right? If it doesn't help other people, then telling them you're spiritual isn't going to do shit, right? Like, the only thing that's important to other people is if your energy and your consciousness uplifts them, right? There's a great story Master Charge used to always say. There's two stories I'll tell. Both of them are kind of similar. And so there was a guru, and, in India, they're all vegetarian, and especially the gurus, most of them are vegetarian. And, and you're supposed to be vegetarian. Like, if they see you eat meat, they're like, holy shit, because Babaji was very sickly and he had an ulcer, and he had to eat some eggs and things like that, and it had to be top fucking secret. It was really bad, because people have these ideas like, oh my God, he eats meat. What kind of guru is this, right? Not the fact that he can transmit and he can, you can experience his divinity, because who gives a shit? So there's these guys and they're sitting around a campfire, and the head guru, starts like grilling some meats, right? He starts like eating meat. And there's, a young whippersnapper, some disciple of his, is getting agitated, and he says, you're supposed to be a spiritual person, you're a guru, and, we're all supposed to be vegetarian, and, like, how dare you eat meat? And, like, he's like, how can you possibly do this? I don't understand why are you able to do this? So the guru picks up like a piece of wood with it's got burning red hot embers, like he pulls it out of the fire. He starts eating the burning hot red embers, and he goes, because I can do this, right? Like, his answer is like, because, can you do this? Because if I can do this, I can eat fucking meat. If I can eat fucking wood, burning wood, embers, coals, and I can chew them without, then I can eat meat, right? Like, this is a necessity for whatever reason. Maybe, it's just in terms of his physical health or whatever. God ordered him to eat some meat, whatever it might be. The other one is a little bit more famous story. There's these guys living in like monks or people living in an ashram, and they have sworn to celibacy, right? And there's a woman, and they come to a river, and the head guru lifts her up and puts her on his shoulders, and like a piggyback ride, and brings her across the river, and they go on their way. And there's another one of these young guys who's like, bothered by it. So, they're walking for about a mile or so, and the kid says to the guru, this woman, you're taking a vow of celibacy, and there you are. You got the woman, she's on your shoulders, and you've got one leg on one side, and you're carrying her cross, and you're supposed to be celibate. And the guy said, "My son, I left that woman behind a mile back at the river, and you're still carrying her with you, right?" Again, like this idea of that. So, I mean, spirituality or people who are godly people, it's, they're a blessing for you, right? And you learn from them. And you have to throw away everything you thought about what people are like. You can't come in with preconceived ideas about whether it's swearing or this or that. You're lucky if you meet, spiritual people in your life and somebody who's, of a higher developed spiritual nature. And so, if you have prejudice of what the person looks like, the color of their skin, what caste they're in, what they do for work, or any of these number of things, if you think then why aren't you teaching people? Like, why aren't you the one, why aren't you the guru if you think like, well, what's up, right? Like, a lot of people think they know more than the teacher. And, if you have a shitty teacher, sure. But if you have a evolved one, then you have to just shut up and listen and learn and be grateful. Anyways, let's move on to the next one here. So I'm remembering the stories I wanted to tell. When researching the Greys, going down the rabbit hole, remember that the T is silent. I'm not sure what the Greys is at a. Well, I think the T refers to the T in rabbit. So, that was kind of a sly comment somebody left. The first time you started showing the Stop the Hammering meme, the first thought I had was Bill Murray and Scrooge. Two people left that comment. I don't think it was the same person. I think it was two separate people. And, I have that in one of my... I'll put that at the end of the video. I'll do that right now. I just add that. I hope it doesn't get copyrighted. I used longer clips, so, we'll see. But anyways, it'd be good for people to be able to see that. And there was one more comment here, I believe. And the person writes, Charlie Kirk said Nicki Minaj is a terrible role model for young women. And here she is at AmFest. What a freaking joke. The sheeple in attendance consuming this goy slop is just pathetic. Goy slap. There's nothing worse than fucking goy slap. I said this, and I was going to pull some of the clips. I used to do music videos. I used to do a lot of Illuminati, satanic symbolism. And it just got to be the point where they just were rolling it out, and they didn't care, and they were doing it to pop, right? They were doing these things. And Nicki Minaj was in a couple of videos where she really embraced the demonic aspect, and her lyrics were real raunchy. I mean, she was Cardi B before Cardi B, and she all the stuff that she represented, and she's educated. Like she went to this fancy school in New York where you're performing arts school. I mean, she isn't like some low life criminal, and the rest of it. So that whole thing was weird, and any celebrity can just say. Pretty much anybody can come in and say, I'm a Christian now, especially if it's a celebrity, and they'll roll you out and all these things. And, I mean, they're just clout chasing, and Erika Kirk is big into celebrities and the rest of it. Somebody sent me a video. I didn't share it here, but it was a person talking about, Erika Kirk saying she hadn't dated in 5 years. And it showed the three boyfriends. And the person did a good job of editing. They got it in a short Instago video. And then showed that gay dude Jordan on that reality TV show that Erika Kirk was, drinking and dating. She said she didn't drink or date in 5 years. And that was just a few months before she met Charlie. But when I looked at the show, I know she was only in one scene. But then they had the guy's date. I have to go look at that. I have it on Peacock. It's it's a Peacock whatever show, and it's in the viewing history. And every once in a while I go and I take the clips out, although they copyrighted it 2 times ago, so I'm a little hesitant to do that because it's a pain in the ass for me to edited in really small bursts. But she's full of shit, right? She lied where there's all this information about her dating. It's on a fucking TV show. You can't scrub all that shit. So don't say you didn't date for 5 years and then find out that she's dating guys. And one of the guys she was dating is a possible replacement for Charlie Kirk at TPUS Gay. And he seems gay. And she was dating a gay dude on a reality show. I mean, it's just weird fucking stuff. But, like, it's just all so fake, right? Like, if you can easily get caught, like, people don't understand how the fucking internet works. You can't lie about shit that's when you're a very public person and you've been living, like, you've been trying to get on reality shows, you were in music videos, you were, another person sent a video clip of Erika Kirk, acting like she was in love with some guy on the music video she was, and look how easy it is to act like she's in love with somebody. And there's all these people have acting training, every rapper has active training, all these people. So anyways, it's 5 o'clock. I'm going to make dinner. I'm basically done with my Christmas stuff. I repositioned the tea lights and things, so my wife will go for a little, we go for a walk, and we'll go over there and go for a little Christmas Eve walk. And, it's not very long, but just be out there with the lights. We also have some lights around the door. We do very little Christmas decorations. I really am against wrapping paper. Like, I don't like to unwrap gifts. And I think it's just a waste. For little kids, sure. But then you have like a whole bag full of fucking paper. It's a whole, I was always cleaning up as the kids ripped open their presents, and it got old after a while, as have I. So anyways, Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. This is Paul Romano, definitely pointing for the apocalypse and the ascension. Everyone have a blessed day, and be grateful.